You don't have to suffer just because your external circumstances are not what you want them to be right now. You can maintain a neutral energy and figure out why you're here and learn the lessons so that you can move on from it. And that's what I want to encourage, because this path of living your soul powered life, you're going to be met with things that you don't like. You're going to be met with contrast. And the reason that you're met with contrast is because there's a part of you that maybe at some point liked these kinds of things. And so it's recreating more of them because it thinks that's what you want. Hello, my love. It's time for you to get ready. Because every single thing that you have learned about money, wealth creation, success, and hard work is about to get flipped right on its head. Welcome to the Soul Powered Podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Kiger. I'm a financial advisor turned wealth energetics coach, and I have almost 2 decades experience helping people reach their financial goals. And after all that time of studying the human psychology around money, I learned this: that wealth creation is not just a game of strategy and spreadsheets. It is a game of accessing your soul power. And that's exactly what I'm going to teach you how to do during our time together. Here on this podcast, we blend nervous system regulation, spiritual alignment, money energetics, and more so that you can expand your income and your inner peace. This is the podcast where strategy meets soul and your next level expansion begins. This isn't just a podcast. It is quite literally a portal to your next level, and your higher self is inviting you to step into it. So if you're ready to stop hustling for your worth and finally claim it so that you too can make more, save more, and finally live more, then you're in the right place. Let's rise. Hello, my love, and welcome back. I'm so excited that you are here because we're going to talk all about what the heck is a human design hotel. And I'm going to share with you all about my experience of getting invited to be a VIP guest at the world's first human design hotel. And then we are going to talk about what in the heck has been happening with my last several trips that have been so high vibe and so life-changing that have ended with a disastrous trip home. Whether it's a plane ride or renting a car in the middle of the night and driving from DC to Pittsburgh, we'll get into all of that and what I believe that it means and the lessons that I've taken away from it. Because I think that when I entered this personal development space, when I started to live my own soul-powered path, when I started following my soul's path, I, at one point, somewhere unconsciously made a decision that this was going to be an easy path. And that like the second I started following my soul, everything was going to start falling into place. Because that's kind of what we see on social media. We see a lot of people, a lot of divine feminine leaders and women who are really living out their dream. But I think that we're skipping over the dark night of the soul hard parts. If I'm honest, I don't know how transparent people are being about how difficult it was for them to get where they are. So some people do, and those tend to be the women that I follow, or the people in general that I follow are the ones who are like, hey, this actually was really fucking hard. If you think about it, you came into this world not even knowing that not living your soul's path was the way that you were going to do things here. This is my belief system, by the way. You can take or leave this part. But I believe that you came here as a soul, whole and complete, with the ability to magnetize the desires of your life, magnetize the things that you were meant to magnetize in this world. You came here as a perfect soul, and then you were conditioned, you were programmed, you were taught how to be a human on this planet. And you learn that from your surroundings. You learn that from your parents. You learn that from your caregivers. And at some point, we get to a place where most of us decide, and that's probably where you are right now. Most of us decide at some point, at least those of us who are called to live this more soul-powered path, we're called at some point to say, I've put on all these masks. I've been programmed through these years. I've learned how to act. I've learned how to be. I've learned how to show up for those around me. But I'm ready to go back to who it is that I came here on this planet to be. That's usually the cycle of the return to the soul. And I thought that once I made that decision, that things were going to be easy. And in a way they are, but in big ways, it's not easier. It's not easier. Actually, I kind of see this vision of the school of fish that are all moving this way. And then when you decide to raise your hand and you're like, wait a second, I don't want to participate in this system anymore. You are like this one tiny little fish that is going against this. If you're watching me on video, you can see like you're this one little tiny fish that's trying to go against this grain that everyone else is moving in this direction, and you're trying to go the opposite. And there's only within recent years with social media more information around how to do that, how to live a soul-powered life, how to listen to your intuition, how to move through life, breaking free from this system that we all are operating under right now, at least here in the Western world, in the US. This patriarchal system, this system that thrives on us stressing and going to work and, working for someone else and not really tapping into our own purpose of why it is that we're here on this planet and using our gifts and abilities. There are some people who are doing that in their careers, which is incredible. And if that's you, I love that. I love that for you. I love that you found something that makes you happy as a career and as a job. I wish that I would have been able to find that back when I was working in the corporate world. And I think that I really found ways to incorporate my purpose of helping people into my work. And so that is what made it enjoyable. The rest of it I could leave. All of the politics and all of the stress and the constant hitting quotas and goals and just the constant somebody breathing down your neck, I could have lived without. But for those of us who are called to a higher purpose, a lot of times we don't fit in these molds that society has created. And so human design, for instance, is actually one of those technologies, one of those architectures, one of those systems that was birthed into this world, that was channeled into this world as a guidepost. Here's how to listen to your intuition. Here's how to follow the path. Here's the way that your higher self specifically is communicating with you versus someone else, because we're all very different. And so it takes us really saying, okay, I'm ready to walk against the norm and the path, and I'm ready to go with what my soul wants. And so what we're seeing, though, as a result of the, social media, we're seeing that we're learning how to do this more and more. People are able to actually create soul-led businesses more easily than ever before. We have more access to each other than we ever did before. And so instead of you being a lone little fish trying to do this all on your own, imagine if I come beside you and then you have sisterhood and community beside you. You have mentors, you have people, and now we're a bunch of us, and it's a lot easier for a bunch of us to move against the grain together than it is to try to do it alone. So with the information age that we live in, it's amazing what we've been able to create. And it's amazing how much we've been able to shift and change the trajectory of the way that we do things in this world simply as a result of us being able to get this information to each other at lightning speed, the way that we can now. Like, for instance, you listening to this podcast and those who are in the Soul Powered Society and the different programs that I teach. It's like we have ways, there's no other way for us to come into a contact with each other while we're living in different parts of the state, the country and the world. It's not like we would have just organically met, maybe some of us. But think about the power of being able to transmute this kind of information in a way that we can do it now versus any other time in history. So with that, I believe that it's really not something that we have to walk alone anymore. We don't have to walk this path alone anymore. And I don't recommend it because, as I said earlier, as I started this all out, I really thought coming into this more soul-powered way of living and following my purpose was going to be easy. Like, I made the decision and now, God was going to lay out the red carpet and my life was just gonna work and everything was gonna be great and there weren't gonna be hiccups along the way. And what I've realized is actually this life brings a lot of opportunity for growth. And with that opportunity, sometimes, or a lot of the times, comes lessons and things that you don't actually want. So it's contrast. My mentor always says that contrast creates clarity, meaning you receiving something that you don't want is actually clarity that you know what you do want. And so that's an opportunity for you if you receive something that you don't want, like my crazy ass travel trips home, as we'll get into here in a little bit. That gives me the opportunity to see, okay, my physical reality is presenting me with something that is contrast, that I don't actually enjoy. I don't like this. That's the opportunity for me to get clarity on what part of me is magnetizing this, because there's a part of me that is calling this into my reality, because I'm the only common denominator in my life. There's nothing external that's causing this to happen other than me internally projecting a frequency of chaos and stress around travel. And so this gave me the opportunity to really look at how am I doing that? And so I want to bring this full circle because the reason I want to share it from this lens is I know that there's someone out there who thinks, because I started following my soul's path, because I quit my job and I started my own business, or because I changed careers when I knew that where I was working before wasn't serving me, or because I left that relationship, or because I did the thing that my soul was calling for me to do, it should just be easy from here on out, right? And that's not always the case. I actually feel like so much of this deconditioning of who it is that we used to be is hard. It's hard. It can be hard. But as we regulate ourselves and as we step more into neutrality and not making our external circumstances mean so much about us and what we're capable of, we can experience things that are not ideal, and suffering is not required. That's what I want to get through. If you're listening to anything that I'm saying right now, listen to that part. You don't have to suffer just because your external circumstances are not what you want them to be right now. You can maintain a neutral energy and figure out why you're here and learn the lessons so that you can move on from it. And that's what I want to encourage, because this path of living your soul-powered life, you're going to be met with things that you don't like. You're going to be met with contrast. And the reason that you're met with contrast is because there's a part of you that maybe at some point liked these kinds of things. And so it's recreating more of them because it thinks that's what you want. It's a protection mechanism. And we got to figure out what those protection mechanisms are and work with those parts of us that are desiring these chaotic environments or these stressful environments or these environments that feel like self-sabotage. We've got to uncover those parts of us so we can begin to heal them, so we don't have to continue to experience the same things over and over when they're not serving us. And so I want to talk about the travel aspect. But before I get into that, I want to paint the picture for this incredible experience that I just had so that you can see the deep level of contrast that I just went through and experienced. And this is not that different from my experience in August when I was at my next level event. I talk all about this in another episode. I share the whole thing. So if you have questions on that, go back and listen to that episode. I'll put it in the show notes. I can't remember the title of it, but essentially I had a experience where I achieved divine union. And this happened and occurred through a series of a multi-day event that I was at with my mastermind, and through meditative processes and through journaling processes and through essentially these growth processes that my mentor walked us through. My soul finally decided to inhabit my body after years and years of living in a dissociated state. And I shifted timelines rapidly in August. And since then, things have been expediting in my life in the best way possible. Things have been moving more easily than ever before. I'm literally working less than I ever have before, and I'm making more than I ever have before. Things are moving in a positive direction. Clients are coming into my world more than ever before on a consistent basis. And it is all shifting as a result of my energetic frequency shifting. So I had a massive energetic upgrade in August. And then right after that was immediately met with travel woes. And I was, because of tornadoes that were happening, I was grounded in Omaha, Nebraska overnight, then flew into Chicago, was grounded there. I was in airports for 36 hours straight after that incredibly high vibe event, and I could not understand why. So then here we are. I am traveling to Montreal. I was invited by Maya and her team at Rallia Realty, who Maya and I met years ago inside of a spiritual mastermind with our shaman who was hosting it. And Maya's one of those women that I stayed in touch with afterwards. And she's incredible. She's been on the podcast, as a matter of fact, before. So you can go back and listen to her story and just about what she's doing in the world. And she invited me to be a VIP guest at this hotel that she opened that is the world's first human design hotel experience. And she partnered with Eden Carpenter. So if any of you guys know Eden, she is a pioneer in the human design space. This woman is absolutely incredible. I've been learning from her actually for years, and then getting the chance to meet her and just see the encyclopedia of a brain that she is around human design is really cool. She's wonderful. I know at some point I'll be working with her in some capacity as well into the new year, likely. But Maya and Eden partnered together on this project, and it's all about bringing the elements of human design into a space and consciously curating a high vibrational space that allows for people to experience transformation. And so you can go check out a little bit more about their story on Instagram. It's the Human Design Hotel on Instagram. And they've got a ton of resources for you. And they recorded the whole workshop. They recorded all of it. So if you want to learn more, definitely dive in to that, because I don't want to spend all of our time on that aspect. But I want to share about my experience, because I knew when this all occurred that when I was invited that I needed to go. My soul was like, we're going. This is like, it was an immediate full body yes, and my sacral authority. So I'm a sacral generator, a 6-2 sacral generator. And so the way that I know that something is aligned for me is I have a very strong gut intuition. And so immediately I knew that this was for me, that I was supposed to be here. And I said yes. And it was a few months ago that she invited me. So I don't know how much time passed from the time that she invited me into the actual event. But for those of you who've been following me on Instagram, I shared that the week before I left, I ended up having to rush my daughter Lana to the hospital. And it ended up being one of the scariest, most traumatic moments of my life where she couldn't move. So this would have been Wednesday night, a week before I left. I go into Lana's room and she can't move. And she's crying and like, I can't roll over, mommy. I'm hurting so bad. And she was complaining about some back pain, but she said that she'd been working out in the gym, harder than before. So I took her into one of the MedExpress, kind of things, because she's 19 years old, y'all. And I will say that I remember at 19, I thought that I knew everything, and I definitely was not being dragged to some hospital, especially working. I was always tired. I was, doing my thing. I did not want to be bothered. I thought I knew everything, and I thought that I was just fine. And, what is a hospital? I don't want to go to a hospital. Like, I'm good. I'm 19. So I get it, but she didn't want to go to the hospital at first. And it wasn't like terrible enough that it was causing her not to be able to move. So I took her into like a MedExpress. They did some x-rays. They looked at some things and they were like, okay, based on what you're explaining, it probably is musculoskeletal. Oh my gosh, I don't know how to say it. They thought it might have been from the gym, put it that way. So she's like, okay, yeah, no problem. Maybe just like rest up. No big deal. If it feels any worse or gets any worse or doesn't improve over the next couple of days, you need to go to the emergency room. And so when she calls me in Wednesday night, a few days after we had gone to that first initial appointment, and she physically cannot move and she's crying and she can barely breathe, I'm like, yep, don't care. We're going to the hospital. It's like almost 10 o'clock at night. And she's like, no, I don't want to go. I have to go to work. And I'm like, my intuition was like, yeah, we don't care. Like, I mean, of course I care about my daughter, but she was very upset, did not want to go. Just like, again, I was at 19, wanted no parts of like being told what to do either. I felt like I knew my body enough. And as a mother's instinct, I just knew we're going. So this is all happening. We're driving to the hospital and she's like this, like shallow breaths, can barely freaking breathe, y'all. I'm sitting here like in my mind, visualizing in my third eye as I'm driving. I'm visualizing that there's going to be no one in the waiting room. We're going to be seen. She's going to be okay. I have this like peace that passes understanding, right? As the scriptures write about. And so I'm like, okay, we're going to be all right. But my physical reality is not very much indicating that everything is going to be okay right now, but we're going to keep going. And so I naturally keep driving to the hospital. We get there, get her in, and they see her within like 2 minutes. Cause I'm like, guys, like, first of all, we walk in and there's no one else in the waiting room. And she is in being seen within like 2 minutes of being there, which I was like, okay, check. Everything's working out like as planned already. And so I had a lot of peace around that just from the very beginning. So we get her in there and they check her vitals and her oxygen's good. Her vitals are good. So everyone's just okay. Again, maybe there's something going on we don't know, but they also thought maybe it could be from the gym. I can't pronounce the word. I'm just like musculoskeletal or something. Gosh, guys, I feel so silly. Anyway, so I don't know how to pronounce it, but that's what they thought was the case. And so they thought we were going to be in and out. All the doctors were like, yeah, no big deal, whatever. And it ends up that they run some tests, and the test that checks for blood clots was 7 times higher than it should be, basically, than average. And so they were like, we're going to send her back for a CT scan. And they do that, and she has a pulmonary embolism, which is blood clots all throughout her left lung. And the reason that she could not move is because the blood clots obviously restrict the blood to that part of the body. And so her poor lung was literally dying off. Parts of her lung was dying off, and that's what was causing it pain. So yeah, that was a great moment for a mother because, again, I did my due diligence in terms of I did everything that I could to really keep myself calm and keep myself present and be strong for her. And it really wasn't until the nurse came in and was kind of explaining what happens here, that she's going to be on a blood thinner for 3 to 6 months, and we're going to need to monitor her for that long, and etc. Like, there was so many things that actually, I kind of blacked out. As soon as she said 3 to 6 months, I realized my body went into like this place of fear. And I realized that we're not going to be out of the clear anytime soon. And I kind of knew that logically, but I was really just trying to do my best to just be present with her and listen. But that's when the fear started coming. I felt this rush of fear. And in that moment, I was just petrified. And I could not contain my fear. So I started to almost have a little bit of a panic attack. And I just said, excuse me, I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick, because I didn't want to go into a full-blown panic mode sitting there with my daughter and the nurse. So I compose myself, and then I come back, and they are now admitting us, obviously, to be monitored overnight. She's got to have a heart monitor on all night. She's got to be, on this blood thinner. And they're going to check in the morning if they're going to run the additional tests to make sure that they did an echocardiogram to check her heart to make sure that the blood clots haven't traveled to the heart. And they also did an ultrasound to make sure that they're not in the legs. And so we had to wait all night before the people came in to be able to do this. So here's mom. I'm not leaving my daughter. They said that I probably wouldn't be able to stay and that I would just need to ask the people upstairs. And I just did not ask. And I just was like, you're going to have to tell me to leave. And at that point, I still may or may not. I'm not going down without a fight here. And I was very much so in a place of fear, a massive place of fear. And I didn't really realize it until I had gotten home after this whole event had occurred. So we're at the hospital, and I end up trying to sleep on the little chair / couch thing. And it was just obviously very difficult to sleep for mental reasons and physical reasons. So my body could not relax enough to sleep more than like 20 minutes at a time. And I'm just now back in a position where when my daughter first was born, I remember her being in like a bassinet next to my bed. And I would, because I was in postpartum depression and very anxious at 18, having a baby to care for, I would oftentimes put my hand on her throughout the night to just make sure she was still breathing. If you're a mother, I don't know if you ever did this either, but I just was so afraid to lose my daughter from the moment that I had her. That's another story that we'll get into for another day. And so I kind of felt like I was transported back to being an 18-year-old mom. Here's my daughter in a vulnerable place. And every 20 minutes I'm waking up, just looking over to make sure she's still breathing. Terrifying. I will say that genuinely was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. So there was a lot of fear that had been brought up to the surface, and there was not much else that I could think about other than just making sure that my daughter was okay. And so we end up getting the tests back the next day. Nothing has traveled to the heart. There's no blood clots in the legs. They don't exactly know why these blood clots have begun to occur. So now the testing has begun on what's caused this. They had their suspicions, but what has caused this, etc. So we're still not out of the woods with all of that, by the way. We're a couple weeks later at this point, actually 2 weeks exactly. But this all happens about a week before I'm supposed to leave for the Human Design Hotel. And obviously I'm taking it day by day as I get home. And thank God for my incredible husband, Eric. He just held me. It was the next day, I believe, or I guess 2 days after we get out of the hospital, because the next day I came home. Once she was discharged, we both came home and just slept. But it wasn't like restful sleep, because again, I was scared that something was going to happen. I mean, I was just checking on her, and I'm still checking on her more frequently than she would probably like, just making sure she's okay. She is on the mend. She is healing. Thank you guys. If you're one of the people who reached out during all of this and saw my stories, I was just absolutely flooded and overwhelmed with the amount of people who reached out. Oh, that part really got to me because I was just like, wow, people really do care about my baby girl. And that meant a lot. So many people praying, so many people sending healing energy. I wasn't even going to get into all of this part, but I think this is relevant. And so thank God for my incredible husband. I came home and slept that whole day. He took care of everything. And then the following day, this would have been into Friday, Saturday, the week before I'm leaving, I just lost it. And I had the most cathartic and healing cry session. But I was angry leading up to that. I had let so much of this fear build up in my body that my body wasn't able to complete the stress cycle. I was like trying to go for walks and trying to go for bike rides. And then it ended up that like my husband just held me as I just ugly cried about the fact that I thought I was going to lose my child. Right. So I'm just wailing. I mean, just like it was intense. Okay. So here I am just a couple days before I'm supposed to leave in this much of a mess emotionally. And so it wasn't clear if I was going to really be able to go. It was really going to depend on how my daughter was healing, even though I knew when I was asked that this was soul aligned. This whole time I was like, I know I'm supposed to be here and it's going to work out as it's supposed to. If I can't make it, then it's going to be fine. And, I have to do what's in alignment for me and my family as well. And my daughter's health, right? Like there's nothing that I'm going to put above that. And so we get to Monday, we get to Tuesday before I leave, and she does have an appointment to be seen on Wednesday, essentially as I'm in flight to Montreal. And so she's on the mend, she's feeling better, she's up and about, she's, starting to get some clarity on what her next steps are. She's under care. We've got her PCP involved now, she's being monitored. And I had a really long conversation with my husband on Tuesday night, which would have been the night before I left for the Human Design Hotel experience. And I'm crying to him and I'm like, I just don't think that I can do this. I don't think that I can go. And he's like, okay, like, are we making this decision from fear or from truth? Because he's just incredible. And he asks those kinds of questions and he helps me to get clarity on these kinds of things when I'm in these really intense emotional experiences. And I knew in my soul that she was going to be okay, just like I did that night at the hospital. I knew my daughter was going to be okay. Like there was this deep knowing, but it was like really deep in my core. And then my ego's like so loud that it was like, yeah, but what if this and what if that? And I'm just crying to him and I'm like, babe, but like, what if she has to be rushed back to the hospital? He's like, I'll take her and then you can come home. Like, it's the same thing that you like, there's nothing that you can do here. There's no reason to cancel your trip. She's under care. We know what's going on. She's being monitored. She has a doctor's appointment while you're on your way there. So if you needed to, you could turn right back around and come home. Like, it's okay. You're just a flight away. And so he lovingly helped me to see that making the decision to stay would be from a place of fear and not love and not truth, right? Because in my soul, I knew she was going to be okay. And she was, and she is, and I'm home. And just so unbelievably grateful and glad that I listened to my higher self and not the fear, because what occurred on the other side of that was just so much beauty. And let's dive in to what happened during the Human Design Hotel experience. And I'm going to make this a part 2. So we're going to start talking about this and then I'll tell you about my travel plans. Okay. Because this is going to be a long episode. If not, I kind of wasn't going to bring the whole story about Lana in, but then I'm like, that is very relevant here. So we do need to talk about that. So I board the plane on Wednesday, November 5th, which is my birthday. And so I get on the plane and I get to my connecting flight because there's not a whole lot of direct flights from Pittsburgh. So I'm always connecting somewhere. So I connected in Newark, New Jersey, and that was exactly the time that my daughter was coming out of her appointment. So I did get to talk to her before I boarded my second flight, which was incredible because I knew I was like, I'll just turn right back around if I need to. But they did the tests, they have her monitored, they were incredibly good with her. And we're gonna, she's under care, put it that way. She's under care. So we've got this under control at least. And so nothing had changed. They checked her out. They're like, you're good to go. So I'm like, okay, I can keep going on my trip. So that was like the first sign that this was going to work out. She was in good spirits. She had some time off to heal and rest. She is back to work now, but she's taking it slow and easy. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to keep going. So then I board my second flight to Montreal and I get there and I'm just immediately met with so much love and abundance. So Maya has a limo driver who was so incredible. This guy I just love him, waiting for us. So he's like got one of those, little boards, like Human Design Hotel. So I walk up to him and I'm like, I need to get a video. So I'm going to be creating some content around it for you guys too, to kind of see and come with me on my experience. I'm just letting my body recoup this week because it went through a lot. There was a lot that occurred and I'll share more about that. So I get there, the limo driver picks me up and he's just telling me all about Montreal. And he's just this very well-traveled guy who works in films and works in, Hollywood and has met all kinds of different people. And it's just a really interesting, guy that took me through and he's like telling me all about the land. It was just nice. It was a beautiful ride to the hotel. And then I get there and I'm just immediately met with love and light. And I get to meet Maya. I get to meet Eden. I get to meet some of the team. And the moment that I walked into the hotel, something in my nervous system took a big, deep breath and relaxed. I can't even put my finger on what. It was literally just being in the space. I kid you not. Okay. And yeah, you could say like, well, yeah, that happens when you travel, when you're finally at your destination. But that wasn't just that. The energy felt different in this space, and come to find out it was, and I'll share more about that as we move along as well. So I get to meet these girls and Maya immediately is like asking me if I want to join them for a little intention setting ceremony that night. And then also a dinner. And originally I have a business bestie who lives in Montreal. So she wasn't a part of the experience, but she lives there. So I got to hang out with her a bit and I invited her to be my +1 to the experience. So Sabrina, who is in my current mastermind, and then Ellie, who's also in my current mastermind, she was invited to be a guest as well because Maya, me, and Ellie were all in Makosi's mastermind, as was Eden. Okay, so this is kind of all the connection that we have here. So Ellie and Sabrina wanted to take me out for my birthday for a dinner. And so everybody was like, I was just met with this immediate abundance, people wanting to celebrate me, people wanting to be there with me. And so it was one of those things where Maya now is offering to take us out to dinner. And I'm like, you know what? I am here for this experience. I would love to go and be with all of the girls. I want to fully embrace this experience. I want to do the intention setting stuff. And I want to go all in and be fully present for this. And so we did the intention setting. It was beautiful to get to know all the girls that were there, or at least most of the girls that were there participated in that. And then a few of us went out to this incredibly amazing restaurant where, oh my gosh, I don't even know how many, I lost count. It had to have been a 7 or 8 course meal. And it was this gorgeous restaurant. It's a set menu, so you don't know what you're getting until it comes out. It was an adventure because for me, having a history with eating disorders and being really in control around my food for many years, this was such a cool kind of full circle moment where I was like, oh, I don't even know what I'm getting to eat, but I'm going to try it all. I've been a picky ass eater most of my life. And so we started the trip off with, I'm going to be met with my edge. I'm going to be met with something that's going to be uncomfortable, maybe a little bit, but it's also going to be incredible. It's a great opportunity to really step out of my comfort zone and the things that I would traditionally eat on a daily basis and get this really great experience. And it ended up being incredibly lovely. I tried all kinds of things that I really haven't tried before. I tried, oh, I can't even think of all the things that we tried, and they came out and explained it all. And most of the time they were talking in French. Both of the waiters did speak English as well, but they would come out and explain something in French. And I'm like, I don't know what you just said, but I'm going to try the dish anyway. That's the one thing about Montreal. It's so cool. Mostly everybody's bilingual and they speak English and French. So it kind of feels like you're in like Europe or something. It's such a vibe. So we had all kinds of different things. I tried scallops. They had this dish with like raw shrimp, which I've never eaten before, but I tried that. I had, oh my gosh, they had just had all of these really cool different things that I was able to try. And it had to have been, like I said, like a 7 or 8 course meal. And Maya so lovingly took care of us. So it was really kind of a week of receiving, which also came up against my receiving edge, put it that way, because I'm so used to being the one who's doing things for everyone else. And this whole experience from start to finish was just receiving and, allowing Maya to give to me in that beautiful way was also very healing, but in some ways confronting because I'm not used to receiving at that level from other women, if I'm 100% honest with you. A lot of, my receiving wounds, I have healed through allowing myself to receive through business, through my offers, through my husband, through relationships, but receiving financially from other women in the way that Maya was doing that, it was confronting in the most beautiful way, because I was like, here's another person who is just so kind and she's just like me. She wants to give from her place of overflow. And I had to try really hard to not take that away from her and be like, okay, I'm ready to pay. Like in the past, I would have been like, there's no way I'm going to let you, do all of these things for me and pay for me to have this or give me this experience. Like I definitely came up against some receiving edges in the most beautiful way possible. And I worked through them. So, okay. So dinner is just lovely. And we got there. I think our reservation was at 7:30. And we ended up, I don't even know if we left until like 10:30 or 11. It was just so beautiful because we got to really experience each other, get to know each other a little bit more, just talk and commune and all of it. And then we all had to be up the next day. So I felt bad for them. They had to be up earlier than us. So the next morning was the first day of the event. And there's this beautiful continental breakfast for us in the event space. So essentially this hotel is Maya's property. So there's multiple aspects to this property. There's an event space that used to be a bar, actually, and it's renovated into this gorgeous, high vibe, beautiful, clean event space. Okay. Then on the other side, there's a cafe. So that's below the hotel rooms. So the cafe is below the hotel rooms. So we could go down and get, these beautiful cappuccinos and mochas and all the, matchas and all the things in the morning. And then upstairs are the hotel units. So I think that there's 10 of them or so. And then outside in the back, there is a sauna and this beautiful outside space that when it's warm, I'm sure would be a beautiful place to hang out. So I go down to the event space and that's where our breakfast is being held. And I immediately start connecting with the other women there. And it was just incredible. Like I knew that my soul was calling for me to connect with these women. Like I was just drawn to certain women. And then I met these incredibly spiritual, everyone was so high vibe. And as I started to get to know these women, some of them were local, some of them were from out of town, some of them were VIP guests like me. And it was so cool because some of the local ones were like, I have just been drawn to this place. And every single time I come here, I meet the highest vibrational people like ever. That I make all of these incredibly spiritual connections and all of the things. And so it was really cool to see that like what I was experiencing from a vibrational perspective was not just me. Because I got there and you could feel that the space was infused with safety and connection and love. Like it was wild because I have traveled to a lot of these like sacred spaces, like Sedona, for instance. When you get to Sedona, Arizona, if you've never been there, you can feel the land. I started buzzing the last time. I actually felt like I was going to pass out when I got there in April. It was April. And I actually felt like I was going to pass out because it, like the land itself is so high vibrational. It's sacred land. It's been prayed over for centuries, right? It's been revered for centuries. So you have to imagine that this land is protected and it does have these vortices and things where you can go and experience this high vibrational experience. Well, what's wild is I have experienced that in nature in a lot of different areas, but I've never experienced it created intentionally. And that's what I will say that Maya and her team did at this hotel space. Because what I learned was that not only did she have activators, spiritual activators come in and put their intention into the space, but there's also so much that she did to make sure that the land itself was okay to be built on. And so she infused, like, there were crystals in the wall, like crystals all throughout the walls. Okay. She did some sort of energy grid assessment to make sure that the land was energetically attuned to put this building and this space on it. She came in and had energy healers clear out any stagnant energy from what it was before. I mean, the amount of intention that Maya and her team put into this project is actually mind-blowing. Like, you have to actually experience it. And I don't know that I could have explained it without fully experiencing it, which, by the way, I'm putting this out there in the universe that it is my intention to host a retreat there at some point, hopefully in 2026. So we'll see how that goes. I will definitely keep you all in the loop with that, but this is something that you really do have to experience. All of the rooms were designed for your human design as well. And so there's so many detailed aspects of incorporating your energy into this space, and then also being a space that was curated for healing, for networking, for high vibrational community to come together. I've just never experienced anything like that was created man-made. Like, I only have gotten those experiences from being in nature before. So that was really cool. That was one of the very first things that I recognized. And so the first day was all about learning about the project, how it came about, how Eden and Maya worked together on this project. We learned we learned all of these things that I'm sharing with you and more on that. And I believe they have recordings as well. So if you want to learn more about this space, just go to their Instagram and you can just DM the team or look at the links and see. Like, I know that they took recordings of all of the trainings and the entire workshop was recorded online. So if you want to learn more, you'll definitely have to check it out because it was fascinating to see how this all came about. And then Eden, who is a pioneer in the human design space, Eden Carpenter, she came in and really just gave her expertise to the project. She's the project manager on this. And it's mind-blowing to see what they've created together. So we got to experience that. And then Ellie, my dear friend Ellie, she did a presentation all about the death rebirth cycle, which was really cool. So that was really eye-opening. Ellie is incredibly gifted. She is one of the most spiritually attuned women that I've ever met. She's been on this journey for a long time. And she's done priestess training. She's done Oh my gosh, she teaches a mystery school. So she's wonderful as well. These women are just incredible who I've been surrounded by this last week. And I also knew going into this that was going to be the case. And that's why after this experience with my daughter, there wouldn't have been any better place to be other than in community with these women. So I knew from a soul level that I was going to be so supported. And I got what I thought I would get and so much more, if I'm being honest. So then after Ellie's presentation, we have a little break. We go to lunch. I end up taking a little nap, or trying to at least, because my energy was so high that I really didn't sleep that well, because I think that I was just moving so much energy and there was so much that was coming up for me in such a beautiful way that I just, yeah, it was actually very strange. I usually sleep very well, and I kind of struggled a little bit with that, which is my own thing that I had to work through, which is also why I'm so tired this week. So I'm giving myself a lot of grace and making up for it. So then we had a VIP dinner that night, and we got to meet all of the activators, all the other guests that were there. We got to meet all of Maya's team, and she brought in this incredible chef and this catering company that like legitimately made us the most incredible meal. It was all just elevated, and like she spoiled the living crap out of us, you guys. She spoiled the living, and she did not have to do that. I'm getting emotional thinking about it. And sometimes I have to pinch myself that when I think about how I've just been connected to some of the most incredible women on the planet. Like, I'm not joking about that. These are some of the most incredible women on the planet. Maya absolutely spoiled us. So we had the most incredible elevated meal that you could imagine. And then she brought in this woman who made us these drinks that were, oh gosh, I wish I would have gotten more information. I really wanted to get some of the syrup. The name of the company is Phil, F-H-Y-L, I believe. And she makes these infusions that you can put into your drinks. They're non-alcoholic, but they have the energy of different plants. Almost like, you know, you can infuse like tea, right? You can have different kinds of teas that give you different effects. It was the same kind of thing, but in like a syrup. And so it was just the most beautiful experience that we had these drinks that they really like. The one was intended to help you to go inward and kind of relax and calm. And then the second one was like meant to help you be social. And like, it really did. Like, I have to get my hands on some of that stuff. But anyway, so we did that. And then at dinner was just connecting with other incredible women who are some big names actually in the online influencer space. And they're incredibly high vibrational, incredibly spiritual women. And we just got to connect on a really deep level. And then we ended up hanging out afterwards in the sauna after dinner and just connecting, really deep connecting and deep conversation. And I had like a full on session where I was ugly crying in the sauna because my body's just been under so much stress these last few weeks. And I think it just kind of all came out, and it was supposed to come out in this setting where I was going to be so supported by these incredibly spiritual and amazing women and strangers to me at the time, like literal strangers. And I am just being held and supported by women who don't even know me. I've been following them for some time, but like they don't know me. And I really, at that point, you know, I only know what I know of them on social media. And so that was so unbelievably beautiful to be held by these women who don't even know me or know my circumstances. And that was really healing. So I moved a lot of energy in that space in the sauna that night. And then the next day we get up and we have a panel where we get to learn about all the human design activators who are the women and men who came in and activated the specific rooms and put their energetic signature in there. And then they helped, we just learned about how much, like I said, intention went into this space. I mean, There was no stone left unturned. Everything about this space, down to the toilet paper, the products they used to clean it, was intentional. Maya and her team are so concerned about just making sure that they're working with conscious brands and that, there's no toxins in any of the things, down to, like I said, the cleaning supplies. So there's literally, if there was a detail, they did not miss it. They did not miss it. I will tell you that. You have to experience this for yourself in order to see what I'm talking about here. Whereas most businesses and hotels and Airbnbs and all the things are trying to cut corners. They're, just worried about saving money. None of that matters in most of these spaces that we go into. And so that's why I believe this was such a high vibrational experience, because there was no stone left unturned. And so we get a chance to learn from some of the activators. And then I get activated because my daughter messages me and she's saying that she's feeling like she's a little lightheaded and she's starting to come down with a cold. And so I immediately go back into like mama mode, where I am just like, oh my God, I left her. Now she's, experiencing these symptoms and I can't do anything about it. So I leave the room and I go and I call her doctor, and I'm freaking out a little bit. My nervous system's reactivated. I'm calling my husband and I'm like, is everything okay? She may need to go back to the ER. And her nurse or doctor that I spoke with, she said no, that like the symptoms she was having did not require her to go back to the ER. But if they get worse, or she starts to faint, or she's experiencing shortness of breath or pain in her chest, that would be the sign. But like that, she wasn't experiencing any of those things. So I'm a little activated at this point and feeling some of that fear come back up. But I made the decision that, okay, like I'm trusting that her care team knows what they're talking about. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to participate in the event again. And sure enough, as soon as I go back in, we were getting ready to do the breathwork / sound healing session with Lauren and Stephanie. So Stephanie Burgos, I believe is her name, Burgos. And Lauren, she goes by Lauren Eliz, I believe, on social media, Eliz. I think she goes by Lauren Eliz or Lauren of Love or something. Forgive me, I can't remember exactly like what her handle is. But anyways, those two girls, they've been doing these healing sessions together for years. They are plant medicine experts. They facilitate these plant medicine ceremonies. They facilitate these sound bath and breathwork sessions. They're deep into the healing realm using all kinds of different healing modalities. And so they walked us through the most incredible session that, women were releasing. We all were releasing so much. There were so many tears. There was so much energy that was moved in this session. I really feel like I unlocked a block that has been in my throat chakra for years, in being fearful to use my voice. And this session just like unlocked something. I was like making these sounds and things that like, honestly, if you would have walked in, you're probably like, what in the world is happening here? But we were really unlocking so much energy, and women were crying and some women were yelling. And so like we were just moving through so much energy. And I was not any different from any of the other women. I was moving a lot of energy during that session. And I'm still kind of processing a lot of what happened there. So that was incredible. And we ended the event on that note. And then that night we just kind of hung out. We hung out around the hotel. We went and got some dinner. We all moved so much energy that I think everybody was just kind of tired and like ready to just chill that night. And so that's what we did. We hung out. We got to really just connect on a deeper level with all these wonderful women. And the following day, which would have been Friday, and mostly everyone was leaving that day, but I was staying an additional day because I wanted to spend some time with Sabrina, who's one of my business besties that lives there, like I said. So we wanted to go and explore a bit before I actually left, because I had planned on going to visit her around this period of time. We had started talking, I think, in April about me going to Montreal to visit her. And we were supposed to go with a little group of us. And this opportunity ended up like falling into my lap. So I was going to go end of October, early November to visit her anyway. And then this opportunity comes up. So we really were like, okay, I'm not leaving without us spending like a day together. So the event ends, but Maya so graciously offered me to stay another couple nights so that I could see Sabrina for a bit. And then also I was going to create some content and do some things on Sunday afternoon before we actually left and came back to the States. So what I'm going to do is, because we are over an hour at this point, I'm going to stop the recording here. I'm going to do the second part because I really have a lot to dive into as it relates to what Sabrina and I experienced and how much fucking fun I had in Montreal. If you've not been there, like, it's incredible. Okay. It was so much fun and it was freezing. So I can't even imagine how much fun it is during the summer when they have like all kinds of free events. It's such a community-based place. It literally feels like you're in Europe. Okay. Because the buildings and the architecture and everyone's speaking, French. It's the coolest thing ever. So I'll share all about that experience with you. And then I will share what occurred on Sunday, which was my travel day, what I got to do during the day, and then also my nightmare of an experience home and what I learned from that. Because that's the integration piece. That's the piece where all of this comes together and you'll be able to see maybe a piece of yourself in this too. And that's sometimes when we have these big energetic shifts, because I 1000% shifted energetic timelines at this event. I know that because number one, I chose to go from a place of love and trust and support. And I did not choose the timeline of fear of staying here in Pittsburgh and not going. And of course, as a result, I was met with the utmost receiving, the utmost love, the utmost support from women that I genuinely didn't even know before this. And some of them I did, but got to know on such a deeper level. So because I chose to listen to my soul's path, I received so much more than I could have even imagined. And I'm still processing some of that. So I'll share with you a little bit more about what I'm processing, what came through. But the reason I want to share this again is because I went from this really high vibrational state to then what felt like it could have been a low right after that. And I believe that this sometimes does actually happen as an opportunity for us to embody the frequency that we just attained. Because when you're in this growth journey, it's not just about attaining these levels of vibration. It's about learning how to stay there, even despite the life not always working out exactly as you have planned or you desire. So sometimes after these kinds of experiences, you may be met with something that feels like it could be a lot of contrast. It feels like it could be negative. And so that's actually an opportunity for you to embody and embrace what it is that you just experienced. So in August, when I was stuck in airports for 36 hours after this really high vibrational experience, what I learned and embodied back then is that I can be safe no matter if I have the comforts that I desire, no matter if I'm home or I'm on this airport floor. That my soul came here to live on this earth, and that means that I am safe. I am safe to be here. I am safe to walk this earth. I am safe no matter if I have the comforts of my own home or not. I was stripped of a lot of things. I only had the clothes on my back. I didn't have socks with me. I didn't have a blanket. I was freezing my ass off in the airport for 36 hours, deprived of sleep, absolutely exhausted. And I had to learn how to, even in the quote unquote bad times, to know that I'm safe and that I'm okay. I had to allow my nervous system to be regulated even when things were not going well. And so that's what I learned in August. And then I'll share with you what I learned after this one so that you can see where, as you continue to elevate, you're going to be met with these incredible opportunities that are all, maybe super high vibe, but then you're also going to be met with things that are not going to feel like they're high vibe. They're not going to feel like they're for you. You're going to be asking yourself, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Like, why is this the thing that I need to experience right after I just went through all of this incredible receiving, all of this incredible networking, all of this incredible connection and support? Why in the hell do I now leave to come back to the States and I have to go through this? And there's a lesson in it. There's always a lesson in it. If you can learn what it is, that lesson is, you get to graduate and you don't have to keep repeating these same cycles if you slow down and you listen and you learn, versus just pushing past it, which I had the temptation to be in a victim mindset and be like, you know what, this is ridiculous. I can't believe this always happens to me. I don't want to travel anymore. I'm so exhausted. I don't want to be here. I'm going to be stuck. There's these government shutdowns. I don't even know how I'm getting home. I mean, I was freaking out. And then less than 24 hours later, I was celebrating the fact that all of that occurred. And I'll share with you the shifts so that you can start to embody and do the same. Because these things are going to come up. You're going to be met with things that you don't want to be met with as an opportunity to say and to solidify to the universe, yes, I am in this new timeline of love, connection, and support. And I'm going to make it happen, even if the circumstances aren't prime for that. And here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to decide that right now. So I'll share all of that with you in the next episode. Thank you so much for being here with me. I can't wait to share more, and I can't wait to wrap it all up. We'll wrap it in a bow. I will bring it home for you in the next episode, and I can't wait. So we'll chat with you very soon. Bye. If you loved this episode, then why are you stopping here? The next level in your journey is waiting for you inside of the expansion experience. This is my free training that gives you the 5-step trademarked and proven process to break financial patterns, regulate your nervous system, and finally feel safe receiving more. Go ahead and click the show notes below and let's activate your next level together. And don't forget to follow, rate, and share this podcast if it lit something up inside of you. That's exactly how we build this soul-powered revolution together. Thanks again for showing up today, and I can't wait to catch you in the next episode. Bye for now.